Big thank you to our sponsor, HelloFresh. HelloFresh delivers all the pre-portioned ingredients you'll need to make easy homemade meals. All the proteins, veggies, sauces, spices, and more arrive in your box along with simple instructions that walk you through each step in the cooking process. Whip up tasty restaurant-style meals in your own kitchen without the high price tag of takeout and in less time than it takes to get delivery. Get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/freewellred. Applied across 7 boxes. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/freewellred. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. What's up, WellREDDERS? It's your boy, Corey. Hey, go to TraeCrowder.com so you can see Trae in all the cities that he's going to be in. November 7th, he's in Frederick, Maryland. November 8th and 9th, Philadelphia. November 10th, he's in Newark, New Jersey. November 17th, Phoenix, Arizona. December 5th, he's in Santa Cruz, California. December 6th through 7th, he's in San Francisco, California. December 8th, he's in Sacramento, California. And the biggest shows of the year, December 12th through the 14th, Nashville, Tennessee at Zany's with your boy and Drew. It's the only time we are together throughout the whole year. It's our Christmas homecoming shows. They are always fantastic. They always sell out. So Nashville, get your tickets now to see us at Zany's. December 12th through the 14th, go to TraeCrowder.com. Y'all, so much has happened this past week in the world of politics and comedy, and they sort of converged at the Donald Trump rally in Madison Square Garden. It is what I wanted to talk to the boys about this week. Unfortunately, Trae had a thing come up, and Drew had some personal matters, so we three were not able to get together. But that did not stop me from waxing poetic about the rally and how comedy has taken an unfortunate turn over the past couple of years and inserted itself into politics, but in a way that is sort of the opposite of how it normally does. Anyways, I talk about that on this episode. This is from a live stream that I did discussing, like I said, the rally and the state of comedy today. What is cancel culture? Is it real? It's not. And why do comedians think that they're the only ones that are free of consequences, including, of course, ourselves? So I hope y'all enjoy that conversation. And if you enjoyed it, you would have seen it first by going to WeLoveCorey.com and subscribing to My Hero Hero. It is $5 a month. It's a cup of coffee. If you can't afford it, though, it's also, I also put stuff on my YouTube still. Follow me on YouTube, subscribe, all that good stuff. But WeLoveCorey.com is a great way for you to support me as I don't go on the road as much, and I do most of my entertaining there. WeLoveCorey.com. Make sure to go to DrewMorganComedy.com to see Drew wherever he is near you, and listen to me and Trae's other podcast, Putting on Airs. This week we'll be talking about the Menendez brothers and whatever it is Trae wants to talk about. I have no idea. And also Drew has another podcast, Gravy Baby, and of course, Weekly Skews. All right, enough of all that talk. Let's get on with my discussion with myself about the Trump rally, Tony Hinchcliffe, and comedy in general. Enjoy.
They're the liberal rednecks. They like cornbread and butt sex. They care way too much but don't give a fuck. They're the liberal rednecks that makes some people upset, but they got 3 big old dicks that you can suck.
Show up, then you go live. Otherwise, they'll miss the first part. But here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the Trump rally a little bit, and I want to talk about it as it pertains to comedy. And the reason is because that is, that's the only thing that I'm qualified to do. Oh, I have comments in here. Lisa, good evening, pal. Rod, love the rambling. Hey, guys, how are y'all? I didn't know that you could do that. I didn't know you could comment in here. That's great. I feel that when it comes to politics, it's not like I haven't always shared my opinions. I've never been afraid to share my opinions. I usually only do it when I feel pretty confident in the thing that I'm saying. Like, I try not to just jump on, if something happened today, I'm probably not going to try to have some sort of knee-jerk reaction to it because I want to read about it first, because I'm not a political science major. I'm not even what anyone would call a smart person. So I try. Yes, that's right, Kenny. I'm not a hot take machine. It's not something that I mean, by the way, I guess I'm glad that there are hot take machines, because if there weren't hot take machines, I wouldn't enjoy sports radio. But those are things that you should have hot takes on, because it doesn't matter your opinion on LeBron James, your opinion on Ohtani in the World Series. Those are low stakes things. And that's actually a good way to get into this, is that everyone is treating politics like they are sports now, and none more than the people I want to talk about, which are the people at the MAGA rally. Everyone is treating politics like it is sports, and that they don't even care how they win. It's just whether or not they win, right? Whereas if I won a game on a pass interference call that shouldn't have been called, I'd feel pretty shitty about that win. It would definitely be an asterisk beside it. You know what I'm saying? But they are treating everything like sports. And to them, they're like, well, yeah. I mean, these politicians on our side are super mean, but that's just what you got to do to win. And it's like, right. But like, how is that going to affect their policy? I don't want a mean person in charge of diplomatic efforts with countries that have bombs and such. And Lisa said, I'm smarter than these MAGA assholes. Not the ones on top. I'm not. Like, maybe like the average voter, sure. But like, that's the thing. These people know what they're doing. Like, Tucker Carlson is a brilliant guy. You know what I mean? Please don't unfollow me for saying that. I'm not saying I like him, but that's the thing, is that I think too, one thing I wanted to bring up was that we have somehow gotten in this mode of if we hate someone, we go, they're stupid. And that doesn't help anything. Because the truth is that there was a lot of brilliant people in the Third Reich. That's why it worked so well. They're shitty. They suck. They oughtn't have done those things, but they're not all stupid. Now, they were able to rile up stupid people. But my point is, I want to talk about the MAGA of all this and the Trump rally, but I want to talk about it from a place of what it's doing to comedy and how comedy has inserted itself into this very specific part of the culture war, because I feel I can talk with authority on that on account of I'm a comedian. Lisa, I'm not smarter than JD Vance, and this is about to blow some of y'all's mind. I've been out to eat with JD Vance a couple times. He used to come to WellRED shows. He used to come to WellRED shows before he was a senator. Him and his wife would come to our shows because they were big fans, and we both had a book out at the same time, which didn't hurt. Now, obviously, his did way better. If my book did as well as JD Vance's book, I might not even be talking to y'all right now, because I might be in my cabin in the woods that I've always dreamed of having. But no, JD's a smart guy. He's despicable. See, that's the thing. You're doing it right now, Lisa. I've been guilty of it too, but you're doing it now. Like, he's a bad person. He's not a dumb person. It takes someone with a high level of intelligence to get in that position. It really does. But you also have to be despicable. You have to be someone who goes, I'm going to decide to put shame, self-respect, and all of this stuff to the side, because in the end, my only goal is money and power. My only goal is money and power. Dude, me and some of my comedian friends have talked about this all the time, about how there's not really much of a difference between what the modern day comedian does and like what a preacher does. And I don't mean just in terms of comedians are too preachy now. I don't mean it like that. What I mean is, like, you're in front of a crowd, you have to captivate an audience, you have to sometimes give them hard to swallow truths, and you have to, a lot of times preachers wrap it up in jokes because that's easier for the medicine to go down. And we always talk about, like, looking at Joel Osteen and looking at all these dudes, we're like, if we had zero fucking self-respect, we would make so much more money, because there's so much more money to be made in religion than there is comedy if you're at my level. Now, that brings me to this point, which is the big business of comedy right now for the first time in at least my lifetime. Now, I guess you could argue that Bob Hope was the number one comedian in the world for a moment, and he was super conservative. Now, super conservative is completely different than MAGA. I think we all have to admit that. It's not like we liked the old school conservatives, but they were better. My God, what a breath of fucking fresh air a Mitt Romney would be right now. You know what I'm saying? I got a question here. Or no, it's not a question, just a comment. I'll read it. Hey, Corey, recently Frontline did 6 minutes on how Donald J. Trump built his base. It's a must see. says you. I think I would rather jump down a flight of stairs holding a knife to my throat, but I'll take your word for it. I have some theories on that. But anyways, this is the first time in my lifetime, speaking specifically about comedy, where basically the entirety of the mainstream, or at least the most popular comedians on the planet, are all not only conservative, but are huge Donald Trump fans, supporters, and now activists at his rallies, right? Like, okay, sure, Joe Rogan will always pull the whole like, no, man, I'm not either. I'm not left or right. And we all know what that means. We all know when someone goes out of their way, because by the way, you'll never hear a mostly liberal person be like, I'm not left or right. Like, no, we take a stance. We understand you got to fucking pick one. You know what I mean? But anytime you hear somebody go, I'm not left or right, almost every single time, that is a conservative who just doesn't want to have to feel the brunt of everyone's condemnation about conservative shit. When they do something bad, they don't want to have to feel responsible for it. So they can go, I'm somewhere in the middle. And it's like, no, you're not. Okay. Joe Rogan has bashed Kamala Harris every chance he got, which, by the way, that's his prerogative. But then you have Donald Trump on the show and throw him softball questions and shit. By the way, Trump still made himself out to look completely incompetent and like a lunatic, even with the softball questions that Joe threw him. But like, when you do something like that, you are a Donald Trump supporter. You are helping get this man elected. And now, for those of you that only, because I know that a couple of y'all only just found out who Tony Hinchcliffe was today. And I know that because my buddy Darren, excuse me, I forgot this. Since this is live, there's no edit, so you are just going to have to watch me when I take my drink breaks. Could I have picked a more gay bottle? No, I couldn't have. That's how I roll. Tony Hinchcliffe, because my friend Darren, who's one of the heroes on here, by the way, WeLoveCorey.com is where I do most of my stuff. If you're not subscribed there, please subscribe there. I would love that. It's $5 a month. It's a cup of coffee. By the way, I totally understand that if you can't even afford that, which is why I'm doing this on YouTube and why I still do plenty of things on socials for free. But if you're out there and you're like, hey, I really like that guy, I'd like to support his art financially, you can do that at WeLoveCorey.com. And while I'm plugging stuff, I'm sitting here bashing on conservatives, fascism, and capitalism, but by God, I'm getting my commercial in, baby. If you don't want to subscribe to a thing per month, you can also support me by going to CoreyShirts.com and picking up some Gerrymander merch or some Buttercream Dream merch or whatever. Or you can get a cameo from me at cameo.com/Corey Ryan Forster. Okay, enough business. Some of y'all, like I said, my buddy Darren Staley, who is running for office in North Carolina, texted me a whole readout of like what all Tony Hinchcliffe said at the rally. Because first off, I didn't watch the fucking rally. I mean, I'm about to comment on it, but I read the excerpts. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not actually sitting down and watching a goddamn Trump rally. They put the clips up later. You know what I mean? I'll check. I see the highlights. I've been following it a little bit on Twitter, but it's football on, y'all. It is football on. And I've already got to watch my cholesterol and blood pressure and all that. Like, I'm trying to keep it level, trying to keep it 100. You know how I be. But he sends me, he's like, hey, who is this guy? They said he was a comedian. And Darren is a very astute comic buff. I mean, he's the one that introduced me to George Carlin's daughter, Kelly, and that made me become friends with her. Like, Darren knows what he's talking about. And he didn't know Tony Hinchcliffe, which kind of blew my mind because Tony Hinchcliffe, coincidence, has been in that Joe Rogan universe for years. And he's had a podcast called Kill Tony, and now they do it like a live taping. It's really huge, where basically it's kind of like America's Got Talent, in that they have like a panel of comedians that are judges, and they have a comedian go up, and if they do well, they're like, that was great. And if they suck, they rip them apart. So Tony's had a very successful career, but he's never actually been the one being funny. There's always other comedians surrounding him, and there's another comedian on stage doing all the work. And by the way, I'm not here just to bash on Tony Hinchcliffe's comedy, because like, everyone has their own taste. He's not my taste, but that doesn't mean he's not someone else's taste. And I'm not going to crap all over their taste because we all like what we like. There's a lid for every pot, as they say. Now, I will shit on him as a person, that's for sure, because Tony has been known for doing his super edgy roast jokes forever. And dude, whatever. Okay. I'm a comedian. Far be it from me to start policing jokes. And I'm certainly not about to start right now. What I'm going to talk about in regards to what Tony said at the Trump rally is I would like to define what jokes actually are. And I would like to issue this statement. If you tell a joke, you stand behind that joke. You don't get to just be like, "Whoa, it's just a joke." It's just no. Say it with your fucking chest. You said a thing, it pissed some people off. You got to say it with your chest, because that's what these people, by the way, these Tony Hinchcliffes, all these people, all these comedians who are like, we love Trump because he's going to make comedy legal again because we can't say anything. What these people mean, you can say whatever you want. I could say anything I want right now. No one is stopping me, but I'm not free from consequences from that. I'm not free from persecution from that. I'm not free from someone saying, hey, that thing you said, I don't like that thing you said, because that free speech is a two-way street. And what these people want is not freedom of speech. It is freedom from consequences. And I don't know who the fuck a comedian thinks they are that thinks for some reason our sorry asses are the only people on earth that get to be afforded the luxury of freedom of consequences. Nobody else has that. You can't just I don't know if any of these people would think that you should be able to walk into an office, look at the secretary and go, nice tits, and then just be like, it was just a joke. Like, you can't do that. So why are we the only ones that get, again, by the way, you can do that, but you're going to have to go to HR. And if it's the second or third time you did it, you're probably going to get fired. Now, in our job, we're not even going to get fired. You can't fire me. I'm an independent contractor. I mean, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution could fire me, sure. But from being a comedian, you can't fire me. But what could happen is that you could just stop supporting me. You could stop being a fan of me, right? So I'm held to account on those terms. But by the way, I don't know that I've ever once thought to myself, I really would like to say this, but I know that my fans won't like it, and therefore I'm not going to say it. I say all the things that I want to say, I'm pretty sure. And by the way, I've totally said some things that my fans didn't like, and I didn't and here's how, and I promise you, I know y'all think we plead ignorance sometimes. We really are a dumbass breed, in the sense of our brain is so off. Like we have our sense of humor, and in our brain, it really is like, if funny, must say, thing funny, me no care, what caveman shit, right? And there have been times when I've said something, it never crossed my mind that a lot of people would be mad at it. Now, as soon as the people explained to me why it made them mad, I was like, oh, I totally get that. And in those situations, you know what I do? It's very easy. I apologize, and then I move on with my day. It's fine. I don't go out and bitch and moan like a little Mary. Then they taken away my free speech. Oh my God, I can't. No, they're not. You said a shitty thing. People told you it was shitty. You got two options. You either double down and go, fuck you, or you go, I'm sorry, and you move on. Or actually, you do have a third option. And I've done this one before. Ignore it. Who gives a shit? Because there's been a couple times I've said something, and I would say it was the loud minority was giving me some yap for it. The loud minority, where it's like 100 people will comment, this is hilarious. 2 people are like, I cannot believe. And I'll look at it and I'll start to think it makes sense. But then I'll look at the joke and I'll go, no. You know what you meant. This person's reaching. But I ignore this comment, because once you comment to this person and start that dialogue, now you're exposing the thing. Neil Brennan said it one time, which I don't understand why. And he's contemporaries with so many of these people. He's friends with these people. He's Chappelle's co-writer, for God's sakes. Why he hasn't been able to embark this wisdom that I heard him say to my face at Largo, which was, we were all talking about, like, quote unquote cancel culture. And I say it like that because I don't believe in it. I don't believe it's real. Everyone, by the way, who has quote unquote been canceled, doing way better than my ass right now. Okay, I promise you that. They've got a bigger boat, they got a bigger house, their wife's got bigger boobs. That part ain't true. That part ain't true. I'm very lucky in that department, but you know what I'm saying. Make this fall the tastiest season yet with farm fresh produce and easy autumn-inspired recipes delivered right to your door with HelloFresh. HelloFresh delivers all the pre-portioned ingredients you'll need to make easy homemade meals. All the proteins, veggies, sauces, spices, and more arrive in your box along with simple instructions that walk you through each step in the cooking process. You can choose meals that match you and your family's lifestyle with preferences like fit and wholesome, quick and easy, or vegetarian. You'll always find something you love with HelloFresh. We have been... the three of us, HelloFresh devotees for a long time, even in times when we weren't being sponsored by them because they hit that hard. I absolutely love them. One of my favorite things about HelloFresh that I don't think people talk about enough is that even if you're already a good cook, which I consider myself a good cook, you'll learn a lot of things. Like, I didn't realize how much lemon zest could improve basically every aspect of a dish until I started using HelloFresh. And also, I would have never probably stumbled upon a recipe for bulgogi if it wasn't HelloFresh. And now that is an absolute go-to for me. It also, I hate wasting food. It helps with that because everything's pre-portioned. I'm not buying some big old thing of vegetables only to use it for one meal, throw it in the fridge, and then forget about it, and boom, they're rotted, and I feel stupid, right? Also, it's just great to be like, this is what we're having this week. Tremendous. I ain't got to think about it. It's awesome. Get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/freewellred. It's applied across 7 boxes. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's 10 HelloFresh meals for free just by going to HelloFresh.com/freewellred. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Here was what he said. We were like, how do you deal with it when people, because he's very famous, how do you deal with it when people get on you about something? And he said it's called the rule of 3 or something. He's like, if I say something and it starts getting some heat, he said, I give it 3 days. And if people are still talking about it in 3 days, I think I probably really made a mistake. He said, but usually what happens is after 3 days, it dies down, which means it wasn't that big of a deal, right? But these comedians, your Tony Hinchcliffes, your Joe Rogans, I don't want to name everybody because, dude, some of these people, they've just now made this weird transition. And I'm hoping that it's just because they have like some type of temporary brain injury, because otherwise I've hung out with them, loved and respected them for their comedy, but like they can't do that. They see every single critique of their act, their joke, their podcast or whatever as a complete invasion of their freedom, when that's not how that works. It's this goddamn free market that all these people talk about. They love the free market. Oh, the free markets will fix it all. Don't worry about it. Okay, we'll take that same logic and apply it to this. Like, it's a free market. You say something, someone's able to say something back to you. Or you know what? Disable your comments on YouTube and on Twitter and be a complete bitch about it. Go ahead, do that. I mean, it blows my mind. And another thing about Hinchcliffe, if you don't know, he's the one that spoke at the rally today. And he made some jokes about how Puerto Rico was a garbage island, and about how Mexicans stay getting pregnant and blah, 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 blah. And the thing is like, yeah, okay, he did the setup and delivery style mechanism, but I'm not even, and this is white privilege of me for sure, but I'll go ahead and admit that. I'm not even mad that he was being racist. I'm mad that he was super hack, because those jokes have been made better by better comedians. Like they're so hack. Mexicans get pregnant all the time, bruh. Like, we've heard that joke 1,000 times. I'm not mad that you come up with a more original way to talk about how Mexicans get pregnant all the time. Like your buddy Tom Segura had a great bit that I loved a long time ago, where he was talking about watching I Didn't Know I Was Pregnant, where these women they go to the toilet and they shit out a baby because they didn't know they were pregnant. And one of them, he's like, and this lady, I don't know how it happened to her. She's a Mexican. You know, it wasn't her first time being pregnant. Okay, same. We're getting to the same place, except one had a structure and a bit to it and a little bit of misdirection. Yours is just Puerto Ricans suck. What's the goddamn joke? There has to be a joke. You can't just, like, for instance, go out and say the N-word and go, psych. It doesn't work like that. That is not how comedy has ever worked. And again, Tony, if you're going to be at the Trump rally in front of all these people, at least come up with some original stuff. At least put some thought into it, because that's the thing. I fully 100% agree. that there is no subject that you cannot talk about in comedy. I 100% believe that. There is room to make AIDS jokes. There is room to make Holocaust jokes. There is room to make any type of jokes. Now, that said, you don't just go on stage and go, I hope everyone gets AIDS. I'm kidding. There has to be a structure, a clever structure. And while I feel that anything can and should be talked about, it's never at its most creative when it's coming from specifically a place of just being mean. When it's coming specifically from a place of just being mean, it makes no sense, because the greatest comedians of my generation, the generation before me, and the ones who started it out had one thing in common. They could cut like a knife with a word, but they also had empathy for their fellow man, because this is the first time that I've ever seen comedy, as I was going to say earlier, and I'm just now getting to it. I call it the weave. I'm over here. Right? This is the first time in humanity I've seen that all the top comedians are insanely conservative. Usually these were more liberal people. And because I feel like comedians were always trying to punch up. They were always trying to punch up at authority, and they were always trying to punch up at the people who were trying to divide us, and the people who were saying, these people are less than you, or this sexual orientation is less than you. The comedian would go, hey, you're controlling everything, and you shouldn't be, because you have some goddamn archaic thoughts, and that stuff belongs in the medieval times in Tudor England, you son of a bitch. All right? Back when the Pope was exorcising demons and banning cats from the cities because he thought that they brought the rats in that had the plagues and they were all covered in the devil's dust or whatever. That's where your line of thinking belongs. And the comedian was the jester, who was supposed to be the only person who could stand up and tell the king, hey, you got a ugly face, you dumb piece of shit. Did you have fun having sex with your cousin last week to strengthen the ties with Rome? Fuck you. Like, that's what it was. It wasn't going, hey, you see all these people who are completely disenfranchised and have a horrible, horrible life. Nothing is going well for them, and every single system has been put in place to make sure that continues. Fuck those people. Fuck those little people that aren't having a good time while I'm sitting up here. I have my house in Beverly Hills. Homeless people are gross. Lesbians they're not real. Okay. That's just a college chick who's confused. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? What the fuck are you talking about? Leo says a joke isn't funny if it has no humanity. For the purposes of what I'm saying, sure. Again, I've heard some pretty horrible jokes that maybe didn't have humanity, but they were clever. They were clever. You gotta be clever, dog. If you're gonna go out on a limb and start making racist whatever joke, like, they gotta be that was always our rule at the Comedy Catch. When I was starting out in stand-up, the owner would tell us, he's like, you can say whatever you want, but if you're gonna do a joke about cancer or something, you better bring that shit. You can't half-ass that. It has to be so good that even the people in the audience that have cancer would be like, yep, that's funny, right? And they don't do this shit. It is a complete grift. Thank you, Kevin. And now I shall pause to not only take a breath, but to take a sip from my comically large bottle. Talk amongst yourselves. Anyways, here's another thing that I'm curious about. Hold on. Let me read this comment. This looks promising. Can I put it up on the screen? Yeah, I can. I'm not a liberal. I'm way too far in that direction. I've always thought liberals were too ready to accept the legitimacy of every voice. Not everyone has the right to make decisions for us all. I mean, sure. Okay. I would have to know what voices specifically you were talking about before I could comment on that. But base level, I mean, sure, you're correct. But there's a couple people you could be talking about that I would be like, hey, buddy, their voice is legitimate. Why don't you think it is? You know what I mean? Joel says it needs to have a punchline. Anything is on the table with a solid structure of the joke. Joel could not agree more. And by the way, Joel is one of our proud members over at Hero Hero. That's WeLoveCorey.com. You can join him too, where I do more things like this, and it's a lot of fun. Here's the thing, with all the most popular comedians being conservative now, and it feels like the shift really did start with either the Me Too movement, hashtag, or whenever I don't remember the first time I heard cancel culture. But I'm certain that it and the Me Too movement were like intertwined. They were somehow intertwined. Well, all these comedians started seeing like Louis got in trouble. You know what I mean? And I think they started seeing some of their friends. They're like, well, if that could happen to him, that could happen to me. And it's like, I mean, only if you did the thing that he did, sure. But they started seeing all these people writing blogs about jokes and stuff, and like maybe some venue canceled somebody's show, and they were like, oh my God, comedy's about to be illegal. We got to do something. And that also they start going against it, right? They start going like every single one of these comedians had a bit that were like, please don't cancel me. I don't want to be canceled. And they would do this shit, and then they would say something that they knew good and well would get them quote unquote canceled, and it always worked out for them. It was a marketing ploy because they knew that there was now an audience who specifically sought out comedy from people who said phrases such as, don't cancel me, or whatever. And let's get one thing straight. It's not real. Okay? Louis C.K. was quote unquote canceled. I just listened to his new album. He recorded it at the Dolby Center. He's sold out Madison Square Garden since then. He's still putting out stuff on his website. And I know a lot of people are like, well, he doesn't have a show on Hulu anymore. He quit having the show on Hulu by himself so that he could go do Horace and Pete. Right? And also, that's the thing you don't understand is they're bucking up against all this bullshit because they're like, the mainstream media they have become the mainstream media. Dude, Joe Rogan gets more views on something than CNN does, but you're going to call CNN the mainstream media and you're fucking not? Get out of here. Okay? And that's another thing too, is that this is the first time in the history of comedy that we don't really need those gatekeepers anymore. And maybe that's what's happening. Maybe it really was back in the day. You had, in order to be a successful comedian, you had to get on TV, and maybe all TV was ran by people who were like, hey, we're not going to say offensive things, not because they were super liberal, by the way. I mean, for the love of God, when Married with Children came out, I listened to a podcast with Ed O'Neill, and he was talking about how much hate that show got and how many times they almost yanked the plug on it. And it wasn't from liberal, because by the way, people share that show now. Conservatives share that show now. Like, this show would never get on the air today. People are too soft. Guess what? Those are the same people who almost got it kicked off the air back in the 90s because conservative Christians would write letters to the head of Fox being like, we are not going to listen. If you keep putting this filth on here, we're going to pull our sponsorship. So I don't want to hear it because, yes, the same people who back in the 90s were boycotting Disney, were trying to get anything that hit off of television, are now the people who were like, we just want to see funny. And the liberals want to take it away from us. No, you don't. You want to see racism. That's what you think is funny, and you're wrong sometimes. Again, I've heard some people tell some racist jokes, usually black guys, so it's fine, and they were funny. But again, they were clever. They had a good punch to them. It wasn't just saying blankety blank blank, Mexicans beans, blankety blank blank. Yes, that's great. Kevin says Norm's delivery was the GOAT. Norm could say anything, and it would be funny because it was always clever, right? So, but now the gatekeepers don't matter. These shows don't matter because you start your own podcast. Like Rogan has his own network. He doesn't need NBC. He doesn't need any of those things. And maybe now that these comedians are realizing that, they're like, oh, I don't have to play this stupid game anymore. But it blows my mind because I genuinely always thought that some of these people were good at heart. You know what I mean? And that's what really bums me out, that I thought, because I'll tell you a little story. It's not really a story. It's more of an anecdote, I guess. When I first started doing stand-up, I was 16 years old, okay? That year, I campaigned for a Republican congressman in my hometown. I was 16. He gave me $100. Also, I knew him, like he was from here, and I didn't give a shit because I didn't know really the difference between Democrat and Republican. And frankly, before the Obama election, everyone in my hometown was very apolitical. Everybody had the opinion of, fuck them all. None of them care about us. They were right. But then all of a sudden, after the Obama election, they started really caring. Coincidence? No. It's because he's black, in case nobody's following. But then I started doing stand-up. And I was not a conservative kid. Matter of fact, I to my parents and the church's chagrin, used to question the church all the time because I thought it was bullshit. Like even as a 9 or 10-year-old, I was always super into movies and stuff like that, which meant I had a little bit more access to like what would be other cultures, like gay culture. Like I love the Birdcage, so like, you know, none of that stuff I thought was deplorable or weird the way these people do. But then I started actually doing comedy, and it turned me from someone who was open-minded for someone who was from the South into a genuinely liberal person, because when you do comedy, number one, you're going to be around a lot of people who are different than you. Like when I first started doing comedy, I'm around way more black people. I mean, I was around black people as a kid on account of all of my cousins are black. A lot of people don't know that about me because I don't like to showboat it like an asshole. I don't like to proselytize. I don't want to use them for any type of favor because they're just living their quiet life, and I'm not going to fucking strut them out. But I started hanging out with more black people on a more regular basis, more Asian people, more gay people, open for drag queens, all this. And when that happens and you start forming these relationships, and then you hear this other party condemn these people who are your friends, I don't see how you could be a person that considers yourself friends with them and go, yeah, but I like this political party. Bro, what are you talking about? And especially, like, it's not like my 16-year-old ass taxes were going to be affected, or when I turned 18, I'm still doing comedy. You know, and I wrote a opinion piece for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution this past week. I don't know if they've published it yet, but basically the contention is like, my taxes ain't changing no matter what, because I ain't in that whatever type of bracket. And the thing is like most of these people who are insanely foaming at the mouth and fervent, theirs ain't either. They've got these people tricked into doing the bidding of the super rich that their taxes will be affected. And for some reason, I don't know how, they have convinced a person making $30,000 a year that person should vote for the best interests of Elon fucking Musk. It's insane. And that goes back to my earlier point. These people are not stupid. That takes some savvy, brother. You might not think it does. You might think there wasn't, they didn't have a plan. It just kind of came out. It's kind of like when I'm on stage, I can make it look like none of this stuff was rehearsed and I didn't know any of it before and I'm just making it up. But I promise you, I did. All right. There is an art to making everything look like chaos. It's called controlled chaos, and the best can absolutely do it. But here's what I want to know. These comedians, if Trump wins and they finally get what they want, comedy is, quote, legal. What are they going to bitch about then? You know what I mean? What are they going to bitch about then? Once they're no longer able to be canceled, how are they going to sell tickets? Who are they going to be groveling for? What's going to be the new please don't cancel me? Once they get everything they want, the grift is over. The grift is over. The Russell Brand grift, all these other comedians grift, where they're just like, I just don't want to do my jokes and not live in such a PC world. Well, what if you get everything you desired? You're not going to make as much money, because right now the only way you're able to do this is by going against what you perceive as the grain. Okay? It's ridiculous. I don't like what it says about the business that I love, about the business that I cherish, about an art form where it has predominantly been filled with open mind, free thinkers, people of surprisingly high intelligence, even though we pretend not to be. Not me, by the way. I'm not a high intelligence person. I'm talking about my contemporaries. They just let me hang out with them, and I'm glad that they do. But what's interesting is they always like to, sorry, I hate dead air too, but you got to take a sip. They love to cite things like Blazing Saddles as like, see, that was back when comedy was good. You can't do anything like that anymore. And I'm like, do you realize that Mel Brooks hates you? You realize that Mel Brooks is against you completely. You realize that Mel Brooks, the person who made that movie, thinks that what you just said is absolutely ridiculous and not true. You know why they couldn't make Blazing Saddles again today? Because they already made it once. They knocked it out of the goddamn park. There's no need to. You hear me? Jesus Christ, folks. Ah, man. I don't get it. But, you know, fuck me. I don't know if I can't do anything about it. You know, people always ask, they're like, comedians, y'all are supposed to change the world. And you know, man, you know what? Everybody always say, like, I always get asked, like, how are you going to heal the country with comedy? And I was always like, You can't. Comedians can't move the needle. But now I'm literally looking at comedians move the needle for Donald Trump. Holy shit. Man, that is a, hey, Bridget or Brigitte. I'm going to say Brigitte because that's funner to say. Hey, y'all, just got here. So glad to hear it. Corey, hope you're feeling better. I super am feeling better. I can at least talk. I still got a little sinusy stuff, but I appreciate you. For those of you that are wondering how I know these people, that is because they subscribe to my hero at WeLoveCorey.com. And you can, I just burped. I'm so sorry. And you can too. Everyone out there on YouTube and Facebook land and Twitter, if you're out there, whatever. I think I'm done. I think I'm done talking. I'm like, I was trying to talk to make myself feel better about stuff, and I've made myself feel worse. I don't know what to say other than like, we'll get through this one too. I have to believe that good wins, but it doesn't look like it all the time. And here's the thing. I get told all the time by my parents, by other comedians that are conservative or whatever, or my buddies. They're like, you know, man, as you can tell, like conservative comedy is actually making more money now. Like you should just try to appeal to both sides. And the only thing I can say about myself that I feel proud of is that it doesn't even cross my mind at all. It doesn't cross my mind at all. And by the way, I don't consider myself a liberal comedian. I consider myself a comedian. I just happen to be liberal. Those are my stances. And by the way, do I have problems with the Democrats? Oh my God, so many. Do I have problems with a lot of liberals? Wow, so many. It's just that you only get one of two choices, and they're the ones that I most align with because I think the others are a fascist theocracy, y'all. Anyways, I love y'all so much. Please go subscribe to WeLoveCorey.com or go to CoreyShirts.com and get some Gerrymander merch, some Buttercream Dream merch, all that stuff. Or book a cameo from me. I'll do anything. I'll do any of my characters. It's cameo.com/Corey Ryan Forrester. Do it on the website, not the app. The app charges you way too much, and I don't want to see you get ripped off. It's $69. I will, yeah, nice. I'll do it as any of my characters, Buttercream Dream, Gerrymander, that, or do it as myself, whatever. I give you your money's worth. You want me to roast somebody? You want me to tell your boss to go stick a cucumber up his butt? I'll do it. I don't care. So WeLoveCorey.com, CoreyShirts.com, Cameo.com/Corey Ryan Forrester. I really appreciate y'all. I'll do more of these. This was fun. I had a good time. I was nervous, but it's nice. Okay. Love y'all. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Putting on airs. We might not know much about history, we don't care. We gon' get drunk and we talk about yachts. We gon' get drunk and we gon' talk a lot. Dress real fancy, sit in our chairs, sip on our tea, putting on airs. We collected from our love of Downton Abbey. We collected, we found out we're both so fancy. Hey, what's the difference between rednecks and royal families? Only money, cause they both have sex with family. Ew. Putting on airs. What other rednecks to talk about foreign affairs? Laughing so hard that we end up falling out our chairs. Sir Trae, Sir Corey, oh what a pair. High class topics with a redneck flair, oh yeah. Two rednecks but we're still fancy, putting on airs. We might not know much about history, we don't care. We gon' get drunk and we talk about yachts. We gon' get drunk and we gon' talk a lot. Dress real fancy, sit in our chairs, sip on our tea, putting on airs. Two rednecks but we're still fancy, putting on airs. We might not know much about history, we don't care. We gon' get drunk and we talk about yachts. We gon' get drunk and we gon' talk a lot. Dress real fancy, sit in our chairs, sip on our tea, putting on airs. Okay, it's Team Squirrel or Team Trae. Oh yeah, we keeping it basic. He thinks that the squirrels at Corey's mom's house are racist. And you know squirrels live in the same place for generations. So Trae, you better count your days and you better count your blessings. Cause all the squirrels that you ran over, that you think are nameless, faceless, their families are getting together and plotting on you from the attic and basement. So even though Corey is dumb, fat, and bald, he knows how to avoid drama, don't get squirrels involved. Two rednecks but we're still fancy, putting on airs. We might not know much about history, we don't care. We gon' get drunk and we talk about yachts. We gon' get drunk and we gon' talk a lot. Dress real fancy, sit in our chairs, sip on our tea, putting on airs. Two rednecks but we're still fancy, putting on airs. We might not know much about history, we don't care. care. We gon' get drunk and we talk about yachts. We gon' get drunk and we gon' talk a lot. Dress real fancy, sit in our chairs, sip on our tea, putting on airs.